something you can Google, you would find that if you read through it, you could find that by understanding it, you could actually be saved. You could accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. However, the catch is you have to understand it. What I never want you to forget is we can never keep the 10. So Jesus gave us 2. In Matthew 22, verse 35, then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, saying, Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus looked around and said unto him, Hey, look, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And he said the second was like unto it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Moses gave the law and stated to be righteous everyone needed to be kept. We may be able to repeat the 10, but how about the 650 plus laws? Now, the other thing that I think is amusing is that, so he boiled it down to 2. So that lawyer's basically out of business. He's going to have to go and work on workman comps cases, or now he's going to have to chase after chariots, give them their business stone in order, or business parchment in order to drum up business, because now instead of the 650 laws, he only has 2. It's kind of hard to prosecute or defend only 2, but that's another story. Okay, so what is the problem? We keep trying. We keep trying to keep the 10. We keep trying to keep the 650 laws that are so burdensome that you would become frustrated. If we continue to focus on the 10, on the law, we will continue to fail. Attempting to keep the 10 we become self-absorbed and not other-focused. Even in the book of Acts, the apostles needed to clear up what the new Gentile Christians were supposed to follow. The Jewish Christians were trying to put them under law. There was a big thing after there was Gentile Christians that they weren't Jewish, they didn't know anything about the Jewish law. The only thing they knew from the Apostle Paul and the others was that the love of what Jesus did for us, that he was crucified for us and he was raised again from the dead. That's what Paul was preaching. But then these Jewish Christians come by and say, yeah, that's all good, but if you want to be really righteous, you need to keep the law, and part of that law is being circumcised. And if you read through the book of Acts, there's a big brouhaha about it, that they're trying to put the Gentiles under the law. In Galatians, if you read Galatians, Paul is very adamant and very basically incensed that these Jewish Christians are trying to put the people under the law. And he basically said a few times, I wish they were cut off, them to trouble you, and I will guarantee you them being cut off wasn't them being cut off in traffic. So, getting back to the book of Acts, this is what James states: that you abstain from meats offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from fornication, from which if you keep yourselves, you shall do well. Fare you well. Now, these Gentiles didn't even know what the law was. They had no idea. If you look in the books of 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Paul, talks about a lot of different things with the Corinthians, and he's not talking about law, them, breaking the law or trying to keep the law. He's talking about them being decent and in order. He's talking about them reining it in. He's talking about them not doing fleshly things like puffing one person up against the other in order to feel superior. He's talking a lot about a lot of things. The law isn't necessarily one of them. Let's go back to the Jews and the law. There were a set of laws. With the Pharisees and Sadducees, there were made up what was called fence laws. The Pharisees and other supposed leaders set up these laws to make sure people did not break the law. Those then became more important than the Mosaic law. This is one of the reasons why Jesus was so critical of them. They successfully built a fence around God and around the heart of God. Mercy and grace is what Jesus talks about to them. The weightier things of the law, the joy, the mercy, the grace. So let me ask you today, do we build fences? Even the title of non-denomination has become its own denomination. With a title comes a description of what it is or is not. If we do not fit within that definition, then we may be considered outside the will of God, or even a non-Christian. If you wear makeup, it's a sin. If you dance, it's a sin. If your head is uncovered, it is a sin. If you have modern conveniences, it is a sin. If you wear jewelry, it's a sin. If you wear things that are made by man, buttons, and if you wear zippers instead of buttons, it's a sin. If you drive a car, it's a sin. Sin, 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 sin. What I learned in kindergarten then becomes conditional. Share everything. What is mine, and what is yours is mine. Play fair. But I make up the rules. Don't hit people unless they deserve it. Put things back where you found them. Nope, find your keepers, losers, weepers. Clean up your own mess. Unless you find someone who clean it up for you, who works cheap. Don't take things that are not yours. See the first one. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. Say you're sorry when you hurt someone, unless they hurt you first. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Okay, I can live with those two. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you, but think about all the calories in another 45 minutes on the treadmill. Live a balanced life. Learn some. Nothing you can tell me I don't already know. Draw and paint some, but someone needs to like it or it has no value. Sing and play some, but I'm going to tell you what to listen to, whether dancing is moral, and life is a rat race, so who has time to do it anyway? Work every day some. I'll be late from work, honey. Take a nap every afternoon. Yeah, right. Between soccer practices and PTA meetings, maybe. After I text messages, I'll sleep in my car. When you go out into the world, watch for traffic. Hold hands and stick together. Nope, you're on your own. Wonder. Nah, daydreaming is for fools. As Christianity become, if it feels good, do not do it. The more miserable you are, the more holy you have become. Or it's the other extreme where we become so self-indulgent, we forget about the others around us and maybe their needs. We are told boldly to come boldly to the throne of grace to find mercy and help in our time of need. If we have to hurdle all of these fences around the God, how are we ever going to get in? Jesus came to tear down the walls of religion made by man. In Ephesians 2:14 it states, He is our peace, who has made both one and has broken down the middle wall of partitions between us, having abolished the flesh, the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make himself one new man, so making peace, and that he might reconcile both unto God in one body, by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby, and came and preached peace to you which are far off, and to them that were nigh. When we continue to try to keep the law, we become frustrated and full of condemnation. The law was only to identify sin. We are never to be made righteous by keeping it. What does God want you to know? If you do the 2, you've done more than the 10. In 2 John, it states, "For I rejoice greatly that I found of your children walking in truth, and we have received a commandment from the Father. And now I beseech you, lady, not as though I wrote a new commandment unto you, that which we had from the beginning, that we love one another. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment, that you have heard from the beginning, you should walk in it." So, what's from the beginning? Okay, real simple. Jesus broke it down to the 2. Love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the laws and the prophets. Very simple, very short. What do I want you to do? Jump over the fence. The fence of all the laws, all the regulations, all the attitudes, all the everything that would keep you from the throne of grace. In 1 Corinthians 9:19 through 23, it states by Paul, "For though I am free from all men, yet I have made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. Unto the Jews I became a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without the law, as without the law, being not without the law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without the law. To the weak I became as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made of all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be a partaker thereof with you." What does that all mean? Paul, in the interest of God, sought God with his heart, soul, mind, and strength. He purposed in his life to share with others what that meant, what the love of God was in Christ Jesus. And he didn't bend people's arms to come to his truth. He came and met them where they were, for them to understand what the truth would do for them. Jesus said, "The truth shall make you free." Well, the only way Paul was going to get that truth to people was where they were. Just like Jesus did. Jesus didn't hang out in the temple and have people come to him. Jesus went out to the people and ministered to the people, and that's exactly what Paul did. And the second one, love your neighbor as yourself, that's real simple. You love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. Okay, so do we want to poke ourselves in the eye? Well, I'm saying that generally. I'm not sure if there are people that want to, but it's not something that we would generally think that it would be good to do. Do we stab ourselves in the knee with a stick? No, and so God doesn't want us to do that either to other people. He wants us to give people the same latitude, the same caring, the same everything that we give ourselves. So here's the thing, and this just came up in me. So you lay out a bunch of laws, you start a denomination, you become the person that's a head of that denomination. So you tell this